Thank you for checking out this bonus episode of I Dig Crazy Flicks with Cat Bus Russ. I am your host, Cat Bus Russ, and I'm recording from the Hilton True in downtown Indianapolis for Indiana Comic Convention. And I just got back to my hotel room about a half hour ago, finally getting an actual meal in my body. So how did I handle the convention with such little sustenance? Well, thankfully, I had taken a serving of Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend, which got me through the day. It has the same amount of caffeine as a cup of coffee, all the B vitamins you get in an energy shot without the battery acid aftertaste. And if you go to w.gg and use promo code CatBusRuss, you can save 10% on your order for Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend. It's a powdered energy drink, 16 ounces of water, and you're good to go. Again, w.gg, promo code CatBusRuss at checkout for 10% off.
Hello there.
This podcast is protected under the laws of the United States and other countries. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or exhibition may result in civil liability, criminal prosecution, and the wrath of the tall man.
Boy! Hey, let's talk about you, the ID10T community events at ID10T.com, like Russ Stevens, a.k.a.
Cat Bus Russ,
who has started a podcast called 90 for Chill, which Russ says is dedicated to movies with a runtime between 74 and 99 minutes, the time frame that I feel is ideal. Russ, I could not agree with you more. That is a fantastic idea. Russ goes on to say there are times you need a cinematic fix but don't have time for the latest Scorsese masterpiece or offering from a comic book universe. There's also times when you need a conclusion to prevent a binge costing you a whole night. My guest and I try to follow these guidelines as we chat up features that are definitely worth your time and are beyond easy to make time for. 90 for Chill, the podcast, can be found on all major podcast platforms at 94chill.com, and that's spelling out 90, Ninety, 4 chill. So there you go. Thank you so much for sharing, Russ. Really great idea for a podcast. Events at ID10T.com for everyone else.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll. Bring the noise.
Journey to an age of great kingdoms. An age of awesome magic. An age of terrifying evil. Where one man sought the key to the ultimate power. He was the man they called Deathstalker.
Reunite the three powers. You will be the power.
A brave man could get inside one car's castle and kill it.
If he can capture the amulet of life, he will rule the world. But an evil wizard stands in his path. And to the victor, a beautiful princess. The greatest challenge. The greatest adventure. The most legendary hero of them all. The man they called Deathstalker. The last great warrior king. Starring Richard Hill and Bobby Benton.
So, Deathstalker 2025 must be a love letter to Deathstalker 2, not the original Deathstalker. At least Deathstalker 2 had the cool theme that Slash later gets to cover 38 years later. This feature is just really for the most basic man, I suppose. The nudity is kind of constant for the female nudity, and honestly a little bit mean, because it's always, oh, let's go and
tie this girl up. Let's have some near rapes. And it just gets excessive, and it's not very fun. There are some set pieces that just don't make any sense, like the party before our tournament begins. Maybe Mortal Kombat 95 took that inspiration from that. With that said, I better get to the plot. Deathstalker is a reluctant hero, or he seems to be. He eventually just goes on a quest to, with the Sword of Power, to gain the Chalice of Power and the Amulet of Power to defeat a wizard who's taken over the kingdom. Why would he want the power? Especially when he does have one great line, fools and heroes are the same thing. The motivations don't make any sense for the characters. The special effects are pretty shoddy. And there's a bunch of decapitations, but you can then see the complete body lying on the ground. It's just poorly directed. I wonder if the cuts that I get, sometimes it'll just cut right to black, and all I can think of, okay, so am I getting the AMC Plus version of this? It's just so bad in so many ways that there's just nothing charming about it, I think is the big issue. That's why I guess Deathstalker 2 was picked for B-Fest, because that's just silly fun, and I think it was just more of a parody of the entire barbarian genre by that point. The score is very much just stock Roger Corman stuff. I don't want to go into the history to figure out which features from which. It's good Cinemax fare, I guess. Maybe a video rental for a party of teenage boys, but it's not cinema. And thank God there is Deathstalker 2 and the Deathstalker remake, because this one should be forgotten.
We'll be right back. Obey the law.
You do not have to be like me, because I know that everybody's social media feed is bombarded with ads for the new guilt-free snack. But you're scrolling on social media, so you're curious about a lot of things. And fortunately for me, I have a pretty high batting average when it comes to trying stuff from online sources. One of those hits was Deutsch Snacking Dough. It's cookie dough. You can eat raw, you can bake into cookies in under 10 minutes, and it just fills you up in a few scoops. I like to eat a pound, maybe 2 pounds of chicken wing in a sitting, and still there's the urge to go for that third pound. But with Deutsch Snacking Dough, you take a couple scoops, and it just settles me down, and I feel full. Free of the top 8 allergens, they're gluten-free, low sugar, and have 3 times the protein of any other dough out there, and it's plant-based. And as I say, I can eat 3 pounds of wings in a sitting if I feel like it. I am a carnivore. Needless to say, I was skeptical about plant-based snacking dough, but my skepticism was proven wrong. So if you go down to the link in the description of this podcast, it will take you to my portal, and you will get 20% off of your order. So find your new snack today. Deutsch Snacking Dough.
Are you gonna bark all day, little doggy? Or are you gonna bite?
So take 2 on my Indiana Comic Convention coverage for 2026, day 1. And I will say it was a lot more fun than watching the original Deathstalker. So starting off pretty well there. I ended up getting a later start, leaving Urbana to head to Indianapolis, and of course you're going to lose an hour. But, so I essentially made it in just before 4 o'clock, got down to the convention, probably only about a half-mile walk, so I'm just looking at my numbers as I walked back from Hooters to the hotel, see how my day has started on my exercise ring on my Apple Watch. So what I started to do was, it's a real pain, I will say. A lot of this convention, they've got so much space, but you have to go upstairs to register, and which is not a... It's good to have the upstairs for the gaming stuff. I know they got laser tag. I met up with Ron Hernandez. You can find him on the Tron episode from last year's Indiana Comic Convention, where we discussed the 2 movies to that point. I would like to see the Tron panel they have tomorrow, but I think Effin' Birds has got that slot. But you got to go upstairs and around, it's no easy way to find, I would say, unless you've been to this con before. So I knew it was going to be upstairs, the registration. It's almost like I should have worn some sunglasses, do some Matt Murdock cosplay instead of Captain N. I was that also slowed me down this morning, deciding that it's a 3-day con. I'm traveling, I'm not packing a bag for for an airplane, so I may as well bring my cosplay over. So, but yeah, so you got to go on a hike to find the registration on the second floor, and then you got to come back down. And I was too late for the 4 o'clock panels. I don't think there was anything that really caught my eye for 5 o'clock. And so I just went around the artist alley. I actually just talking to strangers, putting myself out there, complimenting them on their apparel, giving them buttons for the podcast. And then when I got up to the gaming area, Ron said I could just put any kind of promotional stuff I have out on the tables there. So I almost ran out of buttons today. I know I ran out of all the ones that I had attached to my jacket, and the few extra I brought for the Indiana Comic Convention theme. But no, I'm down to, I'd say, maybe 4 from the ATL Comic Convention, which is a real question for me. I know they're not having it this year. I did do the research. It's actually because the numbers are slow, not just low, not just because it would have probably been the same weekend as the World Cup, which I know they're going to have some games in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Dome. So it's kind of left me. So I don't know. I'm just, I don't know if it's because of recording my panels. Was it recording some celebrity sound bites? Or did I just, I kind of got a negative vibe off of Brian Young, and maybe even Holly Furrick, the hosts of the Full of Sith podcast. I know they got some cred with either iHeart or Screen Rants. So, we did the Revenge of the Sith panel. You can find that on our feed. And maybe I was just trying to be a normal voice, and kind of just they're very big into George Lucas saved Hollywood kind of stuff, or at least Brian Young is, and I'll leave it at that. So if I pissed him off, hey, I'm sorry. I can tell you that also, like, on the day one of Atlanta, I was chilling out at the panels, and you give me space, you leave empty space, I will go and fill it with my voice. So, and I thought I was all right, but yeah, I knew about the second panel at Atlanta that Brian had enough of me, which I think. So, now I digress. So I hit out after pretty much running out of all the Indiana ones up in the gaming room and giving them to people with cool T-shirts. Running into the person who's on the Star Trek trilogy panel at 6. I did not get to that, and I'll get to that story. I intended to, but because they said the Star Trek trilogy, well, that is Star Trek 2, 3, and 4, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, they fit together very closely with going from losing Spock to bringing him back, and then trying to correct everything by going back in time. But I think, I think there are people out there who, might feel put off by, not enjoying, not recognizing Star Trek, the motion picture. And, I kind of find that funny now that I think about it, since one of the key actresses in that movie was also in Megaforce, and not many people came out for the Making Megaforce debut in Iowa with Barry Bostwick. Yeah. So people are kind of weird, and I just don't want to believe that people just, dare I say, Star Trek motion picture. Okay. So, I just don't want to think that people were just down on Persis Kambata, because maybe I'm not well versed in cinema enough to, know her from any other movies than the ones that were bombs. So my apologies to her legacy. So I just from there I just walked down an artist alley and introduced myself to artists, giving out my promo material, getting cards. Just trying to make sure I can, hey, I got an outlet for people, and the numbers are looking good, honestly, for the podcast. I say the YouTube views are up there, which is kind of surprising, because I just don't get it. This is an audio format, and I'm not doing video. We're not, this podcast, I don't think needs video because, well, one, so many people don't really want to take the time to put the video on when we do Zoom conversations, looking at you, the poetic critic. So it's kind of, and even when I have done Collateral Cinema, you can find me on episodes about Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, and Rocky IV. And I should be on that for the Dead or Alive, the Takashi Miike film, with a most frantic introduction, 10 minutes in cinema. Still my opinion, I think. Just wandering around the floor, looking at the stuff I've bought. Spent more probably here than I have at any other con that I've been to so far this year. Maybe not New Orleans, and then, of course, about a $250 Pokemon Championship belt, which I really, I gotta put myself out there more. I really need to go and try to connect with the, I think it's WIXO. That sounds a little too Peoria for me. Looking at the stuff, I was quick to buy some badges from Aaron Reynolds of Effin' Birds fame. I had the nerve to ask him, hey, what do I need to do to get you to sponsor me like you did Overly Hated? And he just told me, and I just say, dude, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not actually asking, but hey, So no, it's probably the most conversation I've had with Aaron. I don't know if he even recognizes me still. He'll probably, once I bring back the Cat Bus hat tomorrow, that twat. He was actually sitting by, and he did the same thing in New Orleans, sitting by the guy who's his guest on Effin' Birds tomorrow. Not Effin' Birds, I'm sorry, Bootleg Safari tomorrow. And hey, to my credit, I did not give Aaron crap about how bad Nano Shark was. He was sitting by Lan Pitts, author of Beat Everyone One Up, a comic book tribute, graphic novel tribute to beat 'em up games. I think there's even a little Castlevania, he says, in it. So all the classic games in the 90s, 80s and 90s. He's about I would say he's a year younger than me, because he was really into talking about Masters of the Universe, 87. He said he was 8 when he saw it, and I gave him, the button I ended up giving him was one of the Northwestern B-Fest ones, which was just the Canon logo Crazy Flicks. Which, iffy if I could actually change my logo to that, just because, MGM owns a lot of the library, so does Warner. I don't want to deal with them. But, if Amazon goes and checks out I Did Crazy Flicks, I credit them, but most of my photos on the site, or, to represent movies, I will say, are from IMDb, or I'll go and look for the Prime Video promo image. And he actually said, "Oh, I did get, Amazon let me check out an early preview of the new Masters of the Universe, and then I have to sit on it for 2 weeks. Can't put my review out. No, struggles, man." And I tried bringing up, I mentioned the director of Cuisine de l'Apocalypse, again to, hey, some people have come on my show who are genuine artists. Looking through that right now, Cuisine de... Okay, so I just want to make sure I mention, because, you got to recognize the Kyle Weingart, the director and writer of Cuisine de l'Apocalypse. I didn't get a chance to really say, well, and he goes and uses Chrono Trigger graphics and just altered them for transitional scenes. I know I mispronounced Natasha Leggerios, but Lan is an interesting guy. We talked about I identify as queer now, and Neptunic. He was bringing up that he really tried to experiment in college to broaden his horizons, and he would call what he is. I mean, same thing. Like, we can. We're fans of femininity. Just okay. Diasexual, sexual to exactly two genders. Huh. Okay. Well, I think, so I tried disexual, and it's like, recognizing two genders. So perhaps that's the correct term. I use Neptunic, of course. But fans of femininity. So we had a great conversation. Ended up buying a bunch of stickers from him. I got one from my friend Kelly. Maybe I'll go back and buy another one for her. And then met a lot of other great fun writers. I really wish I would have probably grabbed the card. I didn't see one around though. I did get this really nice print of about the size of a vinyl, which is kind of appropriate when you think of the subject matter. It's a print of some fan art for Perfect Blue. Very realistic, I should say, not the anime sense. But it's basically one of my favorite images from that film of our delusion. The delusion version of Mimarin after falling into basically gutting herself, putting her hand, rubbing it against her, putting her hand on the wound, rubbing it against her face, and then dragging it down. Very potent image. I thought I bought. No, I think it was just $20 for that print, $41 on stickers in the book, and then I $25 for badges that from Effin' Birds. That hey, I hope if Allie from Allie's Accessory Shop on Etsy is interested, I'll go and send her. I'll have these for her so she can further make her art. Like, I'm sure she's cool with a rooster saying, smegadoodle-doo. Everyone's favorite dumbass. I think that's a, not quite a duck, but sorry if I don't know my birds, Aaron. There's a duck saying, have a nice cluster, Smeg. A seagull saying, Smeg off, I'm reading. We all know what I'm trying to say of Smeg. I think she can't object to the pelican I hate people badge. or the American Eagle with the red, white, and blue saying, "Oh my God, what the smeg." Okay. So yeah, 41, 25, 20. So that's $86 and stuff. And yeah, I didn't buy anything at the Quad Cities Con. And sure I bought more than just that championship belt in Springfield. So yeah, after walking the floor, I misread the schedule. I thought I was going in for the Star Trek trilogy panel, and I ended up being sitting in on the Empire Strikes Out: Why Censorship Always Fails. It was a panel hosted by one of the people who helped run the Ray Bradbury Center. So it's appropriate because Ray Bradbury was a very anti-censorship guy. Good stories about his relationship with EC Comics, who may have plagiarized his stuff, but they played nice with each other. Like, oh, I'm not claiming Ray Bradbury wrote a letter to them saying, "Hey, I'm flattered that you adapted 2 of my stories, but you didn't give me the $50 check to adapt it." And then the EC Comics editor wrote back saying, "I'm not going to, say we plagiarized your work, but with such an elegant letter, here's your $50. And they had a great relationship until EC Comics folded with the establishment of the comic code authority, I think it is. So it was very much a lecture, though. I will say that about Jason Ackerman's panel. It was having difficulties trying to set up a PowerPoint, so maybe it would have been a little more lively. But he was on his own, and he was just going off notes in a script. And he didn't really, he teaches at Indiana University, Indianapolis, where the Ray Bradbury Center is. So I will talk to those guys tomorrow if I get a chance. I've already kind of carved out my schedule, but I want to buy. I want to see what the floor actually has to offer, and so. But it was a very educational panel. Again, teacher, going all the way from Oscar Wilde to he didn't really get into the video game banning. He ended with the music, the parents' music. Well, Tipper Gore's story. So and I was did my best to contribute. I know I'm not supposed to contribute. Sorry, Brian. But when he was looking for answers, I could pop them up. So, so that was so I didn't want to walk out of the panel. I guess is why I stuck around for it. But Jason was a really cool guy. I stopped him to have a conversation. Yeah, but what are we gonna do about you're anti-censorship, but what about people who write stuff like the Turner Diaries, manifesto for white power, essentially, because he brought up the point that, and he was very passionate, which is what I really admire, especially calling out the fact he's living in a red state. And let me apologize again if I haven't already about the recording. I couldn't keep this, so the air conditioners are right next to the desk, so I'm on a bed. I figured that's going to absorb some of the sound. And my microphone, though, wouldn't stay up, so I had to put that on the table, and it's kind of like, I know it picks me up. I can see the levels. So then, I stuck around because I did want to check out the next panel in that room, which was from Maria to Ava. I think it is Ava. So from Metropolis to Ex Machina, fembots in pop culture. And I kind of brought up the fact well, shouldn't we have gone up to Iris and one of the panelists, all representatives of the Ray Bradbury Center, brought up the fact that, well, really, we should have stopped with Megan because that's the one that is written by a woman. So, touche. That was a fun conversation, and yeah, I walked up, moved my seat to the front, and because I'm not the biggest Star Trek guy, but you know, to sit in and yeah, give my throw in some stuff. You know, brought up Red Dwarf and their adventures with Crichton's gender identity, but it was a fun conversation about and that's kind of what I like about panels, is more conversations. I don't like doing TED Talks. So right now I'm thinking I'm going to be at Planet Funk in Davenport. The only thing that'll stop me from that is if I finally find a great paying job. In the running for one right now, so we'll find out about that hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I really want to do Davenport though, especially since that's again my wrestling training grounds, and perchance I could probably go and actually get, try to reconnect with my Scott County friends, Crotch, Shane Hollister, maybe Mason Beck. I don't know. It would be great to actually get them in there. People I know, essentially. So yeah, it was a great panel, and it really, this one you could really go and explore stuff like the fact that we assume gender is male if it's not identified. And that really goes to a later panel, which really explores queer elements. But, just judging, is it men's fantasy, or now is it more of a critique? A lot of love for the movie Her, I believe it is. Shoot, I'm sorry, I have not seen it. I played it off very well. Like, I was pretty interactive with this panel that featured, again, from the Ray Bradbury Center, Kylie Adkins, Christopher Adkins, Coy Lloyd, and Andy Jorgensen. So hopefully I didn't mispronounce any names there. But very cool people, and after every panel, that panel ended, I was like, okay, sorry if I was overly involved, distracting from it, what have you, and they were saying, they kept saying they were cool with me, and I think there's a lot of potential that I might be able to get some of them on the podcast. And then they did so I will say that Kylie had 3 panels in a row. She pretty much moderated the final one, the close the night out. I lost track of time. I didn't realize they were having panels at 9 p.m. It's interesting because they don't really have an after party scene here, say like Galaxy Cons or Fan Expos. So they just run the panels, which again, kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how the hell did I not get on there? Because maybe next year it'll be good, just because, hey, at least they weren't too fed up with me. So the next panel that they did in this room, so I stuck around essentially from 6 to 10, just in room 140, listening to panels from the Ray Bradbury Center crew. The next panel was Schlock Alchemy, from Dusk Till Dawn to Sinners, which again is one of those, they brought it up. It was a Twitter thing, as they say. Like, I did call out when somebody says correct it. I'm like, oh, it's called X. And it was one of the panelists. Like, all right, where can I find something to throw at them? So, they were just talking about how people say, well, why would I see Sinners? Because I've seen From Dusk Till Dawn. And, no, this is, really the distinction of Tarantino writing an exploitation film while Ryan Coogler wrote a film with characters from horror is considered exploitation in a lot of ways. Bad taste, I guess, concepts, lowbrow concepts like vampires, and how Ryan Coogler made it a message. And it was really a great conclusion about how vampires and vampires are a metaphor for Christianity, and there's just a straight up Christian element, give yourself the Lord element in Sinners. So that was a lot of fun listening to the panel. I was able to, bring up my own things. I think I did screw up getting my twins mixed up. Because one guy mentioned, and in the red twin. Like, with red twin, that's smoke. Or, yeah. But and there was interesting concepts like how, again, diving way too deep into the internet, people saying, Sinners is an apology for Black Panther. It's like, I guess I could see Disney as Christianity in a sense, but no. And how Oppenheimer is an apology for the Dark Knight trilogy. Like, I could see Christopher Nolan not, never committing to a trilogy, to a franchise again. But, I don't see that. And I'm not going to go rush to see Oppenheimer, because we've discussed it on panels. Basically, the storytelling method, maybe it shouldn't have been a 3-hour movie. Would people go see an Oppenheimer franchise? And really, come on, Barbie is what put Oppenheimer on the map. Good old, they're releasing these two things at the same time? Well, they're two totally different things, so might as well watch them both. The Barbieheimer phenomenon. And they brought up Barbie, and somebody's like, they don't like the idea of, I guess, the attention that, I think it was brought up during the Fembots thing about, well, look at Barbie and its exploration of the feminine identity, and some people just don't, want to look at it that way, or want to, I dare say, accept the feminine identity or the journey is the same as Barbie's. Which, hey, Kate McKinnon's in that movie, so I would say it's definitely, they do their best to say it's not. But I digress. So the Tarantino one, if anything, they're half of the crew, maybe 3/4 of the crew, because the other two were sitting in, were very, cancel Quentin Tarantino. And it's like, he lives in Israel, he's for the regime. And it's like, he lives in Israel. I mean, I live in the United States. I'm not for Donald fucking Trump. So, it's a, is it a silence is violence? I mean, my mom famously, well, not famously, because she's not famous, my mom has made it a point. She won't watch Quentin Tarantino after he said, cops are out solely to kill people, which they are. You give somebody a gun, which, they just assume, well, I'm meant to use it. That's why they don't have guns, and other police forces don't have immediate access to guns in the rest of the civilized world. So, if not immediate action, they know that it's too much trouble to go and shoot somebody. In the States, all it is paperwork, and it's The Departed, really, the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio is talking with, Farrah Farmiga as his shrink about, what do you really do? Well, I talk to police officers, people have to use their weapons. It's like, they work to use, they're in the force to use their weapons. So, and then there's so many great lines in The Departed. I always like, when I order cranberry juice, I want somebody to go and give me I know. I've been spending a lot of time with a friend of mine who's an anti-violence advocate, and it's kind of like, then can I revel in scenes like, do you have a yeast infection, and then smashing a highball glass on somebody's head, because that's the proper response. But yeah, no, I don't think Tarantino's washed. I think Tarantino is very much going to stick to, I'm going to make my 10th movie and then I'm done. And one of the, I would say it was, as I pull up my phone again, I would say it was Coy Lloyd, who was a big Tarantino supporter like I am. But suggesting that From Dusk Till Dawn will just wash away. Tarantino's going to wash away his legacy. It's kind of like, and it even goes back to the Fembot conversation, how Stepford Wives and Rosemary Baby were written by, and I'm going to pull that up so I know it, so bear with me on that. I want to say, I'm just going to go and check it out. Okay. I want to say written by, alright, I had the first thing right. Ira Levin wrote both those movies, and I know the Stepford Wives, well, I know Rosemary Baby, he wrote the novels that those books were based on, and they even acknowledge perfect adaptations. But then with Rosemary Baby, you have to talk Roman Polanski. So I'm looking at the Stepford Wives, 75, and the director was Brian Forbes. So yeah, I guess it's the point of the matter is, like, we're always gonna talk about Rosemary's Baby despite Roman Polanski. And I still want to talk Woody Allen, so I have not watched Pharaoh versus Allen, and judging that it hasn't been taken off HBO Max like Forgetting Neverland was, because of Michael Jackson's estate. And so I don't really want to think too much more about that right now, because Gary, Indiana might get the Bears, or at least Indiana's news is saying that they're going to get them. I don't think so, but downstate, if we lose the Bears, it's your fault. Don't blame Chicagoland. Pride and joy of Illinois. And now it's finally, Illinois is beneath I-80 and west of 39, so I don't know. So I stuck around for the final panel, and this is one where it's pretty much silent until I could make jokes about the genders of Tetris blocks. The panel was digital father-daughter duos, cultural desire, queer legacy. Which is an interesting conversation. There's really not too many examples they brought up of the father-daughter, at least queer dynamic of it. It's Telltale Games, The Walking Dead, and of course, The Last of Us. I really should have asked, why should I play the game? And it's something, basically, video games now are they still want you to see the story. I think games may have become easier but still longer, because they put so much effort into creating these cutscenes and realism. It's like, no, give me the genderless triangle from Asteroids or Pac-Man before they put a bow on him in the unofficial sequel, which became canon. We talked Birdie So a lot of examples of queer, like how I brought up Final Fight, and they say, I don't really buy that. Well, no, Poison, they basically wrote Poison in the Western version as a man, a trans woman, because it's okay to punch a man in the face. You can't punch a woman in the face. But I think they kind of knew I was out of my element because I'm not up on current video games. But it was a very enlightening conversation, and I don't know, it's just very interesting, the premise of basically they did bring up the person who came out and identified as queer, brought up that would be Kylie Atkins, brought up the new God of War series with Loki / Atreyu, and how they pretty much made him not genderless, but he's not going to act like a regular person. And I guess you can even say the Loki series, when Loki even said, hey, there's been plenty of people I've loved suggesting he was not solely not straight. Okay, I'll go and just say that. Enlightening, and then walked back to the hotel, thought about going to Hooters, and it's like, I gotta go through that construction area. And then by the time I get up to the hotel and walk to a place that looked like I knew I was going to enjoy the food, it was Hooters. I just coming around the other side of the construction, I suppose. So thought about, maybe seeing what's going on, but, I finished my meal by midnight, and, everything's going to be happening by that point. So, major metropolis like Indianapolis. So, yeah, I think that really kind of wraps up the first day. I'm looking forward to the next day. I got to go and create a sign to carry around to try drawing attention to myself. And, give out more buttons, talk about the podcast. I've had a lot of support from my friend Kelly, and you know what? I got to get her on the show. She likes it or not. Allie did it, so with all that said, then let me just go and wrap her up. If you want to help the podcast out, first off, rate and subscribe on your favorite podcast apps, 5 stars preferably. Be as honest as you want to be in the comments. I can accept that passive-aggressive nature if you want to be mean, as long as you give me 5 stars. But I will learn from it and make a better podcast because of it. And I think I can attest to that. If you want ad-free podcasts, first off, you can join the I Dig Crazy Flicks Patreon. That's patreon.com/IDigCrazyFlicks. $3 a month is what we're looking for right now. 3 tins of cat food for Queen Evangeline Stacia Stevens, Ava, the Queen of the Kitties. So if you don't want to do it for the podcast, do it for the royalty. But I will give you a waterproof sticker or fridge magnet. I was actually thinking, do I start sticking fridge magnets? Because I do have them with me on cars as I'm walking back to the hotel. It's an interesting concept. You also will get access to the original 90forchill.com, the podcast feed. So, and did I mention ad-free podcast? So you can see how I've evolved, or you may observe how I've evolved. It's an audio format into a better podcaster if I have. And you'll get a shout out on each episode as long as you're a subscriber. So thank you, Tim Bates. You can find him. He'll be at Gen Con, I think, next month. At least for a day. I got to direct him to Jess McCord. He was Evil Penguin Games. Okay, but I'm going on. You can find Tim Bates on episodes about 1989's Bloodsport in Space Arena and the 1988 horror comedy classic Night of the Demons. Thank you, The Scoop Staley. I will watch the May 2nd episode of AEW Collision and see you sitting behind Tony and Nigel. And thanks, Dad, for all your support. And the best way to help the podcast out, though, is come on the show and be a guest. Just offer me a film, a director, an actor, a theme. As long as we focus on movies that are out of touch with reality. So we're saying, From Dusk Till Dawn. I have done that with Andrew T, along with other things. And I did have a writer suggest, oh man, you really need to do, I really love the first Ghost Rider. Oh, well, I've covered it, so I can't help you there. We can talk the second one. Okay. But I digress. So if the movie's off the wall, not in touch with reality, or held by the bounds of reality, that's probably the better way of saying it. I'll gladly give you time to talk about that. But if it's more down to earth, as they say, like a Richard Linklater movie, I'll give you Boyhood. That's between. No, I will give you any of the Before trilogy, because those fit the original 90 for Chill standards of 70 to 100 minutes. I will not give you Boyhood. But hey, let's go and fry up a slice of podcast gold. Otherwise, thank you, Station Marie Harden, for keeping an eye on me. It was great stopping by with Ava to visit you. I hope you're... thanks for being my inspiration. Thanks for keeping me out of too much trouble, and I hope you're doing the same for everybody else you touch in your life, and I hope you're squeezing a lot of ectoplasm out of Skimbleshanks, the one-eared angel. He's quite the conversationalist, so don't go too hard on him. So thanks for checking out I Did Crazy Flicks, and perchance we'll be back tomorrow.
Can I hear a wahoo?
This podcast was made possible by the love and support of Dave and Cindy Stevens, Rory Stevens and Allison Higgins, Danny Daniels, and Stephanie Smith.
Long live Flash! You've saved your Earth. Have a nice day.